Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Confronting Our Thoughts. We know it's been a while, but the guys have had a very, very productive and eventful summer. So please bear with us. With all that being said, we're going to jump right into this episode. We're excited. We have a lot of things to talk about. So we don't want to waste too much of your guys' time. So we'll kind of just start from our summers very briefly and then just get into the topics of this episode. I'll start off personally. I know I mentioned in earlier videos about me, meeting my father for, I'd say the first time, just the first time since I've really been, an adult. And that happened. So in June, I traveled to North Carolina and with my brother and my sister-in-law, and we met my father and then two of my half sisters down in North Carolina in the Outer Banks. And my first impression or my first reaction, my first feeling, whatever word you want to use, was, holy shit, these people are obviously related to me, which I know might be like an obvious feeling, but it's weird. You don't, maybe you're like, I've always been around like cousins growing up for the most part. I've been around obviously close friends, but it was really just my mom and my brother for the longest time. Well, and still has been. And so meeting someone that close, literally in relation to me, was very, you could just feel the difference, which I think is, that's like the amazing part about family. No matter what happens, how many years apart, there's still that connection, whether it's a good connection or a bad connection, it's there, right? Like that energy with those people or that person who is blood related to you. You cannot deny, at least in my experience, of like, oh wow, there's something in the air, right? There's something there. And so, I mean, it was a great feeling meeting this part of me, which is literally, physiologically a part of me. It was a really, really good feeling. And I'm proud of myself for doing it, for, kind of stepping a little bit outside. I know I went my comfort zone. I know I went into the whole situation a little bit in earlier episodes, but I had zero relationship with the whole side of my father, and then that whole side. So his daughters with different mothers, and his wife now, zero relation. So until 23 years old. So I mean, it was definitely uncomfortable, but it was something I knew that I would be proud of myself for doing, and that's exactly what happened. It was nice. I mean, it was just a really, really good time meeting. I have a younger sister who's 3 years younger than me. That's like, we're the closest out of all the siblings. So meeting her and just being able to talk about things, and we're able to relate to a lot of things. So yeah, I mean, without getting too deep into that, that was my overall feeling. It was a great feeling, and you could definitely tell with blood relation, there's just something different there. And I'm proud, and I'm grateful that we were able to have that conversation, a month ago about it, and you guys were very supportive, and yeah, it really, really feels good. So, Luke, what has your day-to-day been recently, with the summer grind? I know you were going to school, you were taking classes the first part of the summer, so that's over with. And I mean, I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, like I really thought like things would slow down like after those courses ended, and I was just wrong. It, the one thing I've really learned this summer was like life won't wait up for you, so just gotta keep going. But other than that, day to day, just been working pretty much every day. Wake up, go to work.
What kind of work are you doing right now?
Basically just all contracting pretty much, but it's been great. Learn a lot of life skills. So like we're doing like electric, carpentry, stuff like that. Like so
Oh, that's dope.
that's been great. Oh yeah, exactly. For whatever. Like I was actually fixing stuff in my apartment that was like broke. Like when I was moving out. So that
Handyman.
was definitely helpful. Yeah, exactly.
You're such a
That's what I'm
dad.
trying to be. Yeah, I feel like a dad.
It's a good
Getting
trait to
old. I'm
have.
getting old, man. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, other than that, when was the last time we did this? Was it before or after I went to BLC? I
Before.
think I was in. Yeah, that was a good course. Made some good friends, but it's always very easy to make friends in the army because everyone's just going to the same shit.
Yeah,
And like
yeah,
you know how that course is. Like it's just
yeah.
everything in the army is just slow and it just feels like it takes forever. But and it was a good course overall. I learned a lot there too, like basic leadership skills. But it's more of like a refresher. Like I kind of like how they had it structured, but you know, just the army. Uh,
Yeah.
other than that, yeah, it's really been my summer. I just been on the go. I haven't really been had time to really just chill, and that's why I said like it's just moving real fast. But
Yeah,
yeah,
just to give people
exactly.
some context at home, the Army, after you reach a certain rank, the Army requires you to go to literally a leadership course, and before you reach, or right when you reach that rank, that next rank, or right before it. So that's what they means by leadership school. The Army, yeah, says like, hey, you're going to learn these leadership skills because each rank you progress, you're going to be in charge of more people with more responsibilities. So just some
Yeah,
context for the people at home.
absolutely.
Z Dubs.
What's that?
Um, mm, the end of June is when I finished. I had two summer classes. I guess the first half of summer, finished those up at the beginning of June, and then had a few days off, or at the beginning of July. Had a few days off, like the 4th of July was my time off, and then I started that like next week. Um, or I guess that actually like the 6th or 7th. I only have one class right now, all of July. 4-hour class or something like that. So that's been like the school part, and then just working at Nike still. Pretty much every day I don't have work to try to save some money up, and um, I'm a certified dog whisperer. I love dogs, so I've been in the market for a dog. Uh,
Whoa.
so my girl, whoa, my girlfriend and I were looking at shelters for a while, just like window shopping, and
Literally.
uh we did go in for like to meet some dogs. So I was like, this is getting pretty
Oof.
serious.
That's
So we
dangerous, dude.
did. No, this would be from, it's my dog. It'd be my dog.
I'm saying though, meeting
I
dogs
don't know
is
if you're.
like date like you're
Oh,
I don't think anyone has ever been like, yeah, I went to a shelter 4 times looking for a dog and I just couldn't find one that was cute enough. Like if you're in the shelter, you're going home with the dog sooner rather than later, you know?
well, yeah. So we have a dog already. She has a dog. So
Beans.
obviously, if I got a dog, they would have to get along. So last week we set up a little meet and greet with this one dog I had picked out. Like I went back to the shelter a few times and met the same dog a few times. And I was like, okay, I want to set up a meet and greet because like I want this one to try to be like the one. So we did a meet and greet. It like went all right. She's still like 8, 9 months old, so she's still a puppy, kind of, and doesn't have any socialization or whatever. So we did bring her home. So the meet and greet, it was like we did like a foster to adopt. So it was like 3 to 7 days. We'll keep the dog, see if it's a good fit or not. If it is, we'll like sign the adoption papers when we bring her back. If not, we bring her back, and like that's the end of it. So we do that, and we ended up bringing her back Sunday. So I guess yesterday we took her back. Her and Beans didn't really like, they got
Oh,
along, but she's just like too much for him. And he was like, he's very patient dog, very good dog. So he was like kind of looking at us like, when are you gonna tell her to like stop? Like she kept like
oh,
antagonizing him because she doesn't know how to play. She doesn't know how to act with dogs because she was in a shelter probably 4 or 5 months, and she was a stray at like 3 months old or something. So it was, we were like really optimistic after the first few days because it was going like better than expected. So, but they did get into like a few scrabbles and like one big fight because they just play really rough. They're both
yeah,
like
yeah,
70
yeah,
plus
yeah.
pounds.
Oh,
So
that's
they got
awesome.
into some fights,
Damn,
but well, yeah, I like big dogs, so I want a big. She's it
big
was a
dog.
mastiff mix, but this picture you can't really tell, but she's like really big. I mean,
That is
her
a big dog.
paws
Yeah,
Her
her
paws are,
paws are
yeah,
big.
she's only going to get
She's
bigger
she's not
too.
even, yeah, she's not even fully grown, but uh I'm kind of bummed out it didn't work because she's the dog I picked out of all the ones we saw. So I'm like really bummed out because I was like, I want this one to be the one, like to work. So now I'm just kind of like, because I was gonna plan to adopt her if it worked out, but now I'm like probably gonna wait until at least after Seattle and like all my traveling in August. And then when it's like stuff settles down, I'll start like really looking again. But that was like the big what's been going on recently, just like looking for dogs because I really want a dog of my own. But that's pretty
Yeah,
much
That's
it.
awesome.
So
Yeah, if I think
Yeah.
back to who's been the biggest dog guy growing up, it's been Zach.
Yeah.
Like if you think about it, like Zach's,
Yeah.
you know, with
He's always
Clo,
like,
you know,
Clobert.
yeah, Clobert loved Zach.
Oh my God.
But basically you took care of
Tucker.
Max. Yeah, Tucker.
Tucker. Oh my
Tucker.
gosh. R.I.P. R.I.P. Tucker. Shout
Yeah.
out Phil too.
Tucker and Clobert are probably up there just in Portage doggy heaven. I don't know, somewhere. Yeah. Well, yeah, Zach, keep us posted. That's dope. So yeah, obviously you're gonna wait till after. What kind of traveling do you have to do after Seattle?
I'm going back to Portage on the way back
Oh,
for
okay,
like
cool. Yeah.
a few days after.
Because you're gonna do a concert too, right?
Then,
Or oh no, you're getting a tattoo.
no. Already, yeah, tattoo, but already went to a concert. But
Yeah.
Madeline wants to see Portage, so
She's missing a lot.
Zach,
She better.
where do you fly out?
Pittsburgh.
Oh no! Wait, what? No shit. Okay, I gotta
But yeah,
look at the itineraries.
it was cheap. It's cheap nonstop. But I'm flying
Yeah,
out
no
like
shit.
in the evening, not the morning.
Okay. Yeah, I remember Tom saying that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good chilling. Yeah, Tom, I'll get to you on that Venmo too. My bad.
Yo, what the itinerary?
Oh, for real?
No, the Venmo.
Oh,
The Venmo. Yeah. My bad. For the van.
oh, we're
For the
not
van.
we're not paying people.
Yeah.
All right. So with all of that, we're gonna get right into the first thing I want to talk about, and then we can kind of we'll address it after I say it. So this was an interview with Chris Bumstead. He's a professional bodybuilder, and then Chris Williamson, who is a host of the Modern Wisdom podcast. And basically what they were talking about was just because you're doing an activity, whether in this case it was really like weightlifting, exercising, just because you're doing that activity, and it makes those current emotions, or it makes your current emotions go away, right? So for instance, if I'm feeling, this happens to all of us all the time, right? If I'm feeling, maybe just a little down or a little anxious, I'm like, get my head around, listen to a podcast, or listen to music, or go for a walk, or work out, go for a run, what may have you. I do that literally weekly. Okay, so just because we're doing that in our mind, that's a healthy way to escape from an emotion, healthier than the other side of the spectrum, drinking, drugs, just being like rude to others, what may have you. That does not mean, though, that you don't have to feel those emotions, that you won't feel those emotions later. So that was kind of good. And so that had me thinking, because like I was, when they were talking about, Chris Bumstead was talking about as a younger man, constantly feeling anxious and maybe some depression or just some feelings that a young man has trying to figure this whole life out. When he got anxious about those things, he would just use the gym as a gateway. And now I feel like that's a very, very common thing. I know I've done that a ton and continue to do that to this day. But he expressed the importance of still addressing those emotions. And this hit like really personal for me, and I'm sure it does for all of you guys. But as I sat there and I really thought about this, I realized that I've been doing that for my whole life. And not until recently, literally until this past year, have I really felt me finally have to address those emotions. It was like I couldn't use the escape routes that were healthy escape routes. I'm not trying to, maybe for the most part, they were healthy escape routes, hanging out with friends, going to the gym, focusing on my health or my job or school, what may have you. It wasn't that was objectively bad, but I still needed to address those emotions. And that I didn't need to do that until this past year. And I guess what I'm trying to get at, and I want to go around and ask you guys basically how you guys are feeling now, if you've ever felt that before, what are some ways that you guys use to address emotions. But the point of it for listeners at home, and just for me telling myself, is that we need to be able to sit down and listen to our thoughts and our emotions, or feel those emotions one day, however that works for you. For me, it's literally having no distractions, sitting, you can call it meditation, just sitting in silence and feeling my thoughts and feeling my emotions. And when that happens, those emotions and those thoughts just get a little bit lower and lower in frequency, rather than me feeling them, getting really anxious, heart rate, whatever may have you, getting higher for whatever reason, and me using that energy and that anxious to go hit an awesome leg workout with loud music, and then I come back and yeah, I feel better because I just had a workout, but all I do is just push back those emotions further and further and further down. And I did that my whole life, and then finally that emotional wall that I kept pushing back, eventually just like what it wasn't going anywhere, no matter how hard I was pushing it. And I'm sure there was there's definitely some reasons and some circumstances in my life that had happened, but I think that's what had to happen for me to stop doing that. For me to stop finally trying to push that wall back, I needed that wall to basically get built stronger due to emotions and life circumstances. So with all of that, like, Luke, can you get into a little bit of how, just hearing that you always need to address your emotions, you can't keep shoveling them away. What is that? Does that ring true to you, or does that ring a bell? Like, what's your reaction to that?
100%. Like I feel like I do it like every maybe like year and a half. Like you just push back like emotions. Like you go, like you said, you go to the gym. Like I did it today, where I just find like when I do have those emotions like built up and stuff like that, I tend to get frustrated easier. And you know how I am. Like when I get mad at something, like I'm mad and it's like whatever. But like with this stuff, like it's just like you said, it just keeps building up and building up, and you just get more frustrated easier. And dealing with them is I've never really known how I dealt with them, but like I've always just kind of figured it out. And I feel like having that kind of faith to go through it is how I've kind of done it. And that's kind of yeah.
I really like love this conversation because I feel like a lot of, I'm not going to speak for like all men, but I feel like a lot of men, and like we'll say like women too, and like people, because we're using the gym for example. If people go to the gym a lot of the times, like the biggest example I can think of is when people say like, oh, like go get your heart broken, and then you can like hit the gym super hard and like shit like that. And I mean, and for one, I'm like on one side that it's true. Like if you're heartbroken and like you're feeling like all these emotions, you'll probably have some really good workouts. But that doesn't mean that those emotions just go away. You're still gonna have to deal with them and like look at yourself in the mirror at some point. So this conversation to me is like really interesting because I feel like a lot of people do suppress their emotions by going to the gym or like whatever they use. Because I would agree with Tom that objectively a lot of these uh like outlets or distractions they're healthy. Going to the gym, going for a walk, hanging with friends, those are all healthy things to do. And the point is you can't forget to really like think about like how you're feeling, like why you were feeling a certain way. You can't forget to actually like look at yourself in the mirror and like actually like sit down and have a talk with yourself like about your thoughts and things like that. I know for me, um if I'm in like a heightened state of arousal or like just unregulated, if I'm dysregulated, the gym does help me become more regulated. And I'm like thinking about like this class I had like a few semesters ago. It's like called the window of tolerance. So everyone has like their own window of tolerance that they can tolerate things, or maybe they have a low threshold for certain things. So like basically, if you're outside of your window, the window is like the sweet spot in the middle where you can tolerate a lot of things and you're just like, yeah, okay, like I heard that, but like I'm just gonna keep going. Or maybe you hear something or something happens to you and you get like really, really frustrated. So then you'd be like above your window, hyper arousal. So you're like a lot of energy, like really quick to snap. Maybe you're lashing out at people, really frustrated. Or you could be on the opposite side of that. Like if you go out of your window, like below your window, it's like hypo. So like hypo arousal, you could shut down or just, yeah, basically just shut down, like not even feel anything, just don't want to talk to anyone. So obviously you see both sides of that spectrum are like really bad for you. So you want to try to find the balance. And that's like the whole idea of like the window. and it's like about a threshold. So for me, when I think about like this conversation, if I have like a fight with my girlfriend or something like that, I would probably be out of my window if I tried to feel those emotions right at that time. And it
Mm.
probably wouldn't lead to a helpful conversation or beneficial conversation because most likely I'd either be out of my window, like really high. So I'd probably say something I don't mean, or I just shut down. And either of those, it's not beneficial. So in that aspect, I do go to the gym. Sometimes like the gym just lines up with maybe if I'm upset or whatever. And that's when I use that time to kind of regulate myself and like bring myself back down into my window. So then after the gym, I'll actually have like coherent, rational, logical like thoughts going on that I can have a conversation. But sometimes, I mean, that's a different way of like looking at this, but if you're not thinking about what made you mad or what made you sad or made you feel a certain way, then you're just like pushing that further and further back, and then it could just come up out of nowhere because it wasn't dealt with. So that's kind of how I think about it. I really like this that quote in the conversation.
Well, Zach, I think that's like that fits right into what we can kind of create a balance between what we're talking about. So you gave a prime example of using the gym as an outlet to get to a point to where you can deal with your emotions. So like let's reword this for practical sense. Like, okay, for your situation, you're in an argument with someone and your both emotions are very, very high. Do we think it's practical to be like, all right, I'm dealing with these emotions right now with this other person? And then that's where that window conversation comes into. And we could probably all agree, not really. So, what is a healthy way for me to get to a point where I can get into the frequency or get into the wave or the vibe of dealing with these emotions with that person? And using healthy outlets like the gym, like a walk, like spending time by yourself or spending time with friends away from your significant other because you guys are in an argument of some sort. So I think it's kind of too naive of us to just be like, every emotion you feel, deal with it at that time. I maybe one day we can get to that point, but for now, maybe we say, okay, this is my emotion I'm feeling. Am I in a state right now, or am I in a situation, i.e., in a car with someone that I'm having the emotion with, and probably that's usually probably okay, not really, right? I'm not really in the best place right now to deal with this emotion if it is an argument with someone. So let me use a healthy outlet. Okay, maybe journaling or doing whatever may have you, right? The list goes on and on. A healthy outlet, and then okay, I'm now going to get myself into the right state. I'm making like a turn to get back to the lane of the emotion lane, right? I think excuse me. I think the issue comes is where we make that turn away from the emotion lane and we just keep driving to just get further and further away from that emotion lane. But you're saying, Zach, there's a way to take that turn, know like, hey, that emotion lane is still there. Let's make sure later today or tomorrow after a good night's rest, I address that emotion back. Right. I think maybe it's unrealistic for us to be like, if the emotion's there, keep driving down the emotion lane and feel all those at that time. That's asking a lot of ourselves, I think. Or maybe we can work. That's a goal to get to, right? That's a point where you can achieve one day. But for right now, especially for me, I can't really sit there and just go face on with all these emotions right now. I need some outlet to get myself away from it for a short period of time and then come back for some reason, for sometimes. But what I'm trying to say is the most important conversation, the summary of all of this is to know that that emotion is never, it's not going to disappear no matter how many healthy habits we develop, no matter how many friends we make, no matter how many different relationships we come through. That emotion still needs to get addressed. And I think we're kind of just throwing this addressing the emotion around like it's some simple thing. But I guess what that really means, and I'm battling with this right now, so I don't necessarily have the answer, nor I don't think anyone really does, but because it's different for everyone. I think what it means by addressing the emotion is feeling that emotion no matter how comfortable and drowning it might feel. And that doesn't necessarily that's in the terms of like depression or anxiety. So when we feel like very anxious, we want to go and do something, get our mind off of what feels us anxious, right? That's we want to, like, if I wake up anxious one day, oh, let me put on some music, let me not think about what I have to do today. That's just gonna push that anxious to the side. It's not going to make it go away. So therefore, okay, how do I feel that anxious? Let me sit down with this. Let me think about this. Let me have a conversation with this anxiety. Feel like, why do I feel anxious right now? And it's going to feel probably very comfortable at first. You're going to feel probably more anxious right when you address that. And then slowly after, some minutes, your anxious starts to get more clearly. The blurred lines of your anxiety tends to get more clearly. And so you can actually be able to read it. So now you can read it, but now it's a language that you can read. Now, not only can you read it, but then it starts to make sense. And then you start to have a conversation still with yourself and be like, wait, why am I feeling this right now? This is kind of silly. Not beat yourself up over for feeling it, but understand that, oh wow, there is no foundation to the anxiety. I just never really had a conversation with it. I never really addressed it. And so, yeah, Zach, I'm going to kind of turn over to you now because I know this is way more your outlet. Just, maybe we can, just what are your thoughts on all that?
I think for sure that some people, it might it might be a little too much for them to even sit in it. So what I would say is like small steps, like could still go a long way. Like, because what we're trying to do basically is lower the threshold. Like if you're feeling really anxious, use the example of when you wake up, like in the morning, like you don't need to sit in that right away. Like, why am I feeling like that? You can just do like a little check in, like maybe just like, where am I feeling the anxiety, the fear, or whatever in my body? Like, is it in my chest? Is it in the pit of my stomach? Like, where am I feeling this, like dysregulation? But for some people, it's not as easy as for it. Like some people can deal with their emotions and look themselves in the mirror and have those conversations much easier than others, and that's why there's like these issues. Like there's depression, there's anxiety, there's like serious disorders out there because some people just have more trouble dealing with it. um and I feel like for this conversation that we're having, we're talking about all the healthy things that you could be doing. There's also like that doesn't shy away from like the negatives that some people do to push their emotions down too. So there's an abundance of outlets, good and bad, for people. And I think for three young adults or young adult males on this podcast, I think we can all probably agree that we've all had a lot of probably felt a lot of emotions of like worried about the future, like worried about something in our life that's going on, and maybe a little bit of fear and just anxiety. I think that's very normal. And I think why we're having this conversation is to just not ignore that, because if you do ignore it, it could just like have a compounding effect, and it could build up further and further, and just kind of maybe it could all like fall on you at once, and then it's going to be really hard to withstand that like avalanche of emotions, and it's going to be even harder to like get back up. So I think just kind of taking it slow. So if you know that you're not too good at like feeling your emotions and you want to be a man about it and like just toughen up. I mean, okay to a certain extent, but like don't forget that you were feeling those emotions earlier than that day. Like you have to be willing to like go back to it, be a little bit uncomfortable, but you don't need to sit in it so long where you give yourself a panic attack or like just like flip out or something like that. It's just a little bit at a time can go a long way, because emotions aren't gonna they're not just gonna stop coming. So I think this is a really important conversation to have in today's day and age.
Yeah. So Luke, I think you're in a situation where we're all in this situation, but Luke has, been open about it and talked about how he's definitely uh just really a lot on his mind is what he's going to do in the future in this next chapter. And I think we're all in that same realm. But Luke, when you think about that, do you feel what are some feelings that you have when you think about the future of, the future of you as a human?
Yeah, definitely anxiety definitely comes into play, but trying to deal with that is just going back to those, writing it down and trying to build some kind of, like I think you said, like foundation. And if you can build off that, it just kind of helps with it. And it kind of helps suppresses it. And like you said, the gym as well. Like I'll just go there, and that's where I can kind of just clear my head. and put it off. But like you said, putting it off but you have to come back to address the problems. But yeah, going thinking about the future, and right now I don't even have time to think about that because I'm just trying to think about my day to day. As right now, I'm moving into a new place, and my room is absolutely swamped with just everything I own, and it's a lot right now, especially with work, and just it is a lot. It feels like that sometimes you don't have enough time in the day, but at the end of the day, this is kind of keeping me off my mind that I have to think about my next steps here coming up, but that will also get addressed.
So
So like,
Go ahead.
you go ahead.
yeah, just really
I
quick.
was gonna say it's just yeah.
So I wanted you to
Really
say
quick.
that, right? Not I wanted you. I assumed you were going to say that. And the reason I wanted you to say that for the sake of this conversation was because why get anxious about your next steps?
I think I just want to like do myself right. Like I keep setting that standard for myself, and I want to keep that high standard.
What
And
is that high standard though? Is there a price tag to that high standard? Is there a sense of fulfillment to that standard? What's Luke Chibani's future standard? If you could name 3 things about Luke Chibani's future standard, what is it?
it's all those kind of that you said. A, it's a price tag. B, I'd say is just being around who I want to be. And in this book, it's called The Psychology of Money. It literally just says like uh to be like financially free or whatever. And like that's kind of like my goal is you get to be around who you want to be, where you want to be, when you want to be. And like I like that. And it kind of hits home for me because like that's what I want. Well, not just for me, but like my family, my friends. Like I want to be able to share like those experiences. So like that'd be like my beat. And see, I don't even know. Like that kind of wraps all of that stuff up. Like
That's okay.
that.
You don't need to list 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Real quick, can you say that again? The 3, those where I want to be, who I want to be with, and what was the third one?
Uh, uh, who I wait, who I want to be with, where I want to be, where I want to be, where I want, who I want to be with, who I want. Oh my gosh, and when I want to be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
What if I told you that, and this is how I'm like, how I see life, is that if that's no one else is going to make that happen. The world isn't going to make that happen for you. Only you're going to make that happen. Okay. So what does that mean? So no, what I'm trying to get at, Luke, is that moment is never going to come unless you start having that moment now. So the moment of, so you need to switch your perspective on not, man, this is where I want my life to be with who these people, 5-10 years down the road, this is where I want it to be with who these people, where I want to be it with whatever you just listed. That doesn't happen unless you start doing it now. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is, so, I would, let's start waking up every day with the gratitude of, I'm so grateful that I'm here with the people that I'm supposed to be here with. I'm in the location that I'm supposed to be, because this idea that life is going to unfold itself in front of you after you worked hard for 5 years, or you've worked hard for 10 years getting your degree, whatever have you, that now the world is going to reward you with this plan of all of these things that you've been wishing for. It's just utter bullshit. Yeah. So the moment you realize that, and the moment you realize that the only thing you have is the present, then that's when you start to realize that everything you've ever wanted is right in front of you. Why? Because you don't care about anything else but what's in front of you. Mm-hmm. And I know this is this idea is like, yeah, that's not realistic, but it is. It's just no one's ever talking about it. They're all talking. You go on social media, they're all talking about like ways to save money for the future. Write down your future goals, be around people that you could see yourself being in the future, all these things. But okay, my idea is like, fuck the future. Who cares? The future is never going to get here. And the past you cannot change. So like I'm telling this for myself, not only for here listeners, but for myself. I want to stop stop caring about the fucking future. I want to do what I feel is right now. And I want to practice every single fucking day. Sorry, I'm swearing a lot. Every single day to be grateful for what I have in the present. And like, I truly mean that. And so anyway, all right. Yeah. Zach, you were going to say something before I went on that rant.
Yeah.
Well, now I want to respond to that. I think in a lot of ways you're right, and I agree. I also think it's important to kind of have an idea of what maybe what you want, like not what you want your future to look like, but like what you're doing right now will impact your future in some way. Because like we talked about it in prior episodes, like what we're doing right now, we're trying to build the foundation to like be a better person for the future, like whether that's being a better like we want to be a better son, we want to be a better friend, like a better uh brother or whatever. Like the things that we're doing now translate into our future in some aspect. And I do agree that it's kind of like, because I really don't think about the future that much. And someone asked me a question the other day about like something in the future, and I was like, I don't know, like I haven't thought about that because I don't really, it's like so far away, I don't see a point in really having an answer when I don't even know if that's what the way it's going to go. That might be the way I want it to go, but like where I'm at right now is way more important, and my future is not going to be happening unless I complete what I'm doing like right now. So I do agree, like you have to focus, like keep your mind basically where your feet are at, because you can't let your mind go so far down the road because you're not even going to get there. You might not even get there. Like life happens. So I do agree with that. I think a lot of people on social media and the things you see with just like a lot of people on podcasts talk about just stuff about the future, and the present is where it is at. It's so important to be grounded and just like be just mindful of like what you're doing, where you're at, who you're around, who you're talking to, and like who you're giving your energy off of, and where you're getting your energy from. So I think that that is the main thing about life. And what I was gonna say before is, Luke, is like it's so easy to get wrapped up in the day to day, like whatever you're doing day to day. It's just so easy to do that. I'm in the same boat as you, so I hear you. And we can try to like journal and think about all these things, but at the same time, when we have so many responsibilities, it's so easy to just feel like there's not enough time to do like what you want, because you look at the clock and it's like 8 o'clock already. That's kind of how it was today. Like I did all this stuff and I'm like, well, it's already like 8, like we're supposed to record in an hour, and I just feel like I had like other stuff I wanted to do, and it's just like I kind of have to put it off because like I want to do this. And so it's just like, I mean, I don't even know where I'm going with that. It's just we we have a lot of responsibilities, and it's just about, I guess, priorities and how you spend your time, and just trying to, I guess, be the best person you can be with whatever you're doing, just putting your best energy towards that, and then moving on to the next thing.
Yeah, I think you know, I just, in my experience, I think a lot of people could agree. It's like when I do feel anxious or depressed, or these feelings that I don't want to feel, whether I feel them or not, I don't, they aren't a good feeling. It's usually when I'm thinking about the future or how I could have changed the past. And like that's only when I
Absolutely.
feel it. And so I'm like, so and I listen, I agree. I think, if you wake up, if I'm, we're right now, we're working hard on things because we know it's going to benefit us one day down the future. That's a million percent 100 agree on that. But I think there's just something to be said about realizing that if we don't start focusing on the present now, we're never going to focus on the present. That's what I'm trying to get at. Life doesn't line up for you to be like, hey, you're 37 with a beautiful family, with with the job you've always wanted. Now it's time to focus on the present, because you're like, I haven't been focused on the present for 37 years. Why am I now going to do it now? You know what I mean? So that's what I'm trying to kind of, the hit home point here is all those things we just talked about down the before this with with setting our emotions off to the side. It's feeling those emotions. And why are we feeling those emotions? Why are we having those emotions? It's usually because we're worried about these things that aren't even controllable. They aren't controllable, right? They're not, like, literally, like, it's absolutely not the case. And so you guys anything to add? There's a quote I want to read to kind of summarize it in the most simple, stupid way, but I like it.
No, like I agree. Like, and then thank you, for that, because like I've definitely practiced it before, and this is what I was kind of saying with the, like, every year I kind of get trapped with this anxiety because I'm just not facing some of the problems that are just kind of sneaking up like in a day to day. But yeah, like definitely what you saying, that it kind of brings me back to where I do want to be with like focusing on the present, stuff like that. And yeah, it's just good to hear that. Thanks, Tom.
So yeah, for sure, man. So I'm rereading Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey, and one of the quotes I highlighted last night was, "When we truly latch onto the fact that we are going to die at some point in time, we have more presence in this one." And like, that's the most base, like, and the people are like, whoa, that's like sad to think you're going to die one day. It's like, no, realize you're going to die one day. So stop caring about what other people think. I mean, we can go on the same loop we just went on, but at the end of the day, why is all this so important? So we can live a better life, because this life is going to end very, very soon. Compared to the existence of the earth, our life is, that snap is longer than our life when looking at the existence of earth. So it's obviously very, very hard to fathom that, but I'm serious. And this is with all decision making, this is on how you live your life. Remind yourself that you're going to die soon one day. And I genuinely believe you'll live a more fulfilling and happy life. I'm serious. The people you hang out with, the decisions you make, the thoughts that go through your mind, when you're constantly worried about all of these things, and I mean all these things, it's the basic things. What are people thinking about? Oh my God, this much money. Like, who cares? Do what you feel is right. Work hard at something. Like, this isn't a reason for us all to just be like, fuck it, we're gonna die one day. But it's like, really, if anything, that's every reason to maximize this life. And maximizing the life is living in the present as much as possible. When does our lives fly by? When we're constantly worried about the next thing, good or bad. When we're constantly worried about it, you're like, Jesus, I haven't lived in the moment. Why do people love vacations? Because it's a final time when they can actually like live in that moment. I promise you can do that if you practice it starting today, not when it's most convenient, because it's never going to be most convenient. If you're 37, you're gonna have kids running around. It's gonna be you're gonna be like, wow, it's 9 o'clock. It's like, yeah, because you just took Sandy and Seth to soccer practice. You know what I'm trying to get at. But seriously, like, it's never the perfect time to do anything is now.
Yeah. I'm thinking about to Gary V interview one time. It was some guy asked him, like, give me some motivation or something. He simply said, like, you will die. That's all he said, and he just walked away. That just made me think of that.
I mean, seriously though, like, in like real world, I think so many people get institutionalized. What I mean by that is they just get put into the American dream cycle, I just put it, or this American dream blender, where it's like, go to high school, go to college. And then this is where it's like, where I think you can really, like, two roads diverge in the Yellowwood type shit. And I took the one that's traveled. Shout out Robert Frost. I'm serious. You have this decision to make in your mid 20s. And I don't want to put a time frame on, but I really think it's so crucial, where you either say, like, you really say, like, how do I want to live my life? And do I want to live my life based off of what other people think I should be living my life? The salary I make, how fast I pay off my student loans, the car I drive, the house I want in the future, the girlfriend I have, the boyfriend I have, all this? Or do I say, let me do what feels right to me as a human spirit? And the reason I put an age on that is because really what we found is that anything further than that, your 30s, mid 30s, late 30s, is that you really get funneled into a biological trap, because your life is short. So and I believe a lot of our listeners are in this time frame, and in your 20s, late 20s, early 30s, where you have a real decision to make. And I'm telling myself this, that I hope I just keep trying my best to make the one that makes me feel the best as a human being. And I hope my closest friends, you too, and and other guys back home, they do that as well. And I think the more we have these conversations, the reminders, I think the better off we're going to be. And I truly, truly believe that, rather than sitting here talking about, man, I think 250 grand a year. I think that's like the sweet spot, right? Because you you have enough money where you don't have to worry about bills, but you're not like too rich where you're like in that next tax bracket. Like, fuck, like what? Shut the fuck up. Like, why don't we, like, let's have a conversation with each other, Sorry, I'm getting aggressive, but this fires me up because it's
Stop
like,
me out, bro.
it's just like that's just like what people think about throughout their day-to-day life. And it's like, you're going to die. And you're going to realize for the past 80 years, which probably 80 years, you've been thinking about the next day, your whole life, or the next week, your whole life. And then you realize you're like, holy shit, I've never thought about now.
Yeah, there's a question that one of my professors, he always asks, and you can relate it back to yourself. Like, it's a reflective question, because like when we do things, whether it is for a good reason or a bad reason, like we do things for ourselves for a reason that makes sense to us. Like, who cares if it doesn't make sense to other people? So the question is, it's just like if someone says something in relation to like counseling, like talk therapy, like what makes that make sense? Something about like whatever the problem or issue or whatever it is, something about it makes sense to you. And that's how I'm thinking about this conversation. Like, I want to live my life. Like, what makes sense to me is what I want to do. It doesn't matter if someone thinks I should be doing something else, or, you know, why'd you get this tattoo? Or like, why did you go here to school? Like, I don't care. So that's how I'm thinking about it. Like, if it makes sense to me, then I'm going to do it. And that comes more with, you're going to be more present. You're going to be more, attached to like, not attached, just more like focused on what's important to you. You're going to be more just right in the present moment and just thinking about you. And I just think this conversation is firing me up too. My wheels are just turning, but I really like it.
Let them
So
turn. Let them turn. We can keep going. Let's just keep driving down this road. No, I love that, because yeah, what makes sense to you? Like, and I think that's important to ask yourself every day, every decision you make. Does this make sense to me? And listen, I don't know. It should go without saying, guys, these are conversations to be had with yourself when you can objectively look at your life and say, like, okay, I've taken, like, I'm not abusing alcohol. I'm not abusing drugs. You know, I don't know. Like, I just wanted to say that because like people are like, wow, these perfect guys, like, don't make any mistakes talking about the future. It's like, no, that's not the point. The point of it is that we're going through this life together, and we've just learned very fast what feels good and what doesn't feel good. Being around people that really care about you feels good. Being around people that don't really care about you doesn't feel good. Living in the present feels way more than worrying about the future and trying to change the past. So like, let's just continue to try to feel good. Being in shape feels good versus not being in shape. Eating healthy food feels good off not eating healthy food. Sleeping good feels, you know what I mean? So I don't know, like we sound like broken records, but all of this is just putting ourselves in a better situation to live the most fulfilled life we can. And with all of that, if you aren't focused in the future, if you aren't focused in the present as much as you possibly can, as often as you possibly can, then you can honestly throw the rest out the window. And like I said, I realized that very, 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 very recently, because I was always just pushing those emotions and suppressing those emotions down the road, until it's finally time. Life said, where it's, hey, Tom, listen, it's time for us to cross that road and go back to that intersection. Like, how are you going to deal with it? And I couldn't keep pushing it away anymore. So yeah.
that's real. That's real.
Yeah.
Sometimes we can't keep pushing because sometimes we have to literally face our demons. So it's not gonna be an easy road all the time. Life's full of ups and downs. You hear us say it all the time. And when it's time to cross the rocky path, that's when it gets really, really hard. But that's when you have to just like have faith that you're gonna make it through. And that's when you count on like you have a support system, you have those people you turn to in times of need, and that's when you turn into yourself and just like we're made to we can get through so much more than we think we can. We're able to endure so much like pain and suffering or whatever. I don't want to make it sound like it's all negative, but we're made to withstand a lot, and we don't give ourselves enough credit that we have a lot of potential.
Mm-hmm. And the first step, absolutely, Zach. I love that. And the first step is realizing that it's okay to feel a certain way. It's okay to like maybe feel down when you like, you know what I mean? Like it's okay to not feel your best every single day. That's okay. But but that doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't be working on that every single day. If you don't feel good a couple days in a row, don't beat yourself up, but also don't just keep accepting that. Hey, is there something? Let's objectively look at my life. Let's look at what I'm looking throughout. Let's look at what I'm doing throughout the day. Would this make me feel good if I was doing this? Probably not. Let's do our best to change that. Or hey, this is definitely, not drinking coffee every day. This is helping with my energy levels. Let's stick that with our daily routine. And all those they're just gonna help build your armor. You know what I mean? So I think, your habits, what we talk about here, is like building an armor. So when life does come at you full speed, which it will, you have that armor that you've built through, years, hopefully, of being prepared for that and taking care of yourself. That's what's important, because you don't get to decide when that you don't get to decide when that comes. The only thing you get to decide is how strong is your armor going to be when it does come. So with that, Luke, I think that you're living the life. I know you're living the life you should be right now in this moment. And I'm proud of you. I really am proud of you. I love telling people that, because a lot of people ask me, oh, do you have any of your friends who are also in the military out here? And I'm like, yeah, there's just one, he's going to school right now, and like, he deployed throughout the school year. And they're like, wait, while he was going to school? I was like, yeah, taking classes while deployed. And yeah, he's like finished his degree in Pennsylvania, like, because a lot of those guys met you too, Luke. So,
Yeah.
and they have nothing but good things to say, because you were a good dude, and you are. And I mean that. I'm not just saying that for this podcast. So, and I'm proud of you, and I love calling you my friend. It's the same with Zach. So,
okay, appreciate it, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
What it's all about, relationships.
Yeah. And with that being said, sometimes we don't need advice. Sometimes we just need to hear we're not the only one. And I think that's what we're all getting at, is that we aren't alone in these thoughts. We aren't alone in these feelings. We aren't alone in in our situations, like Luke is. But Zach, go ahead.
It was unrelated. I didn't know you were gonna say that quote.
Oh no, you're good. You're good.
I was gonna ask if you were still sober on caffeine, but
yeah. So it is. It's been I don't know when I put that video out. 2 weeks ago. It's been like 2 weeks. So I do one day where I fast till like 5 p.m., like 4 to 5 p.m. So on that day, around like 11, I'll have a cup of coffee, just to get like, because just to suppress my appetite a little bit, to give me some energy.
Black coffee.
Yeah, just black coffee, no creamer or anything.
Yeah.
But anyway, but other than that, yeah, no caffeine, no coffee. And dude, the consistent, like the first couple days, like I'll be right hand, like, bro, what? I was like coming up to work, like napping at like 5, 6 p.m. for like the first 2 or 3 days. And then yeah, and then just brain fog, like you just hard, it's hard to like think about things clearly. Anyway, once you get over that hump, man, the energy, the consistent energy you feel, the sleep quality you get, I'm like, I can't believe I lived that much of my life just caffeinated.
Now what? You're
But
never going back.
yeah, no, I mean, I mean, it's nice to be able to use it for what it's worth. I'm sorry, use it for what it's there for. If I don't get if I need to focus on something and you know, I just got a bad night's sleep or there's a lot of stuff going on. Hey, I can get, you know, a small dose of caffeine if it's in the right time of day to get me through this task a little bit. But that wasn't what I was using it for. I was using it to get to baseline. Like I was waking up, waiting 90 minutes, like Andrew Human talked about, and then I would be like, all right, now I can focus. Now I can do my job after after I drank caffeine. That's not how you live your life. How are you going to live a life like that? You aren't someone like you're only someone you're proud of when you have caffeine in your system. Like, and it's so common. Ask a lot of people in their 20s, especially the military. What's the first thing you do? I gotta have a cup of coffee. What happens when you don't have that cup of coffee? I'm not myself. So you're only yourself when caffeinated. When not caffeinated, which is a true human being, the human being brain uncaffeinated, that is the human being brain. You don't like that brain. And they're like, no. I was that person. I was like, no. Anyway, so if anyone's out there listening, like just get through the first, 24 to 72 hours. And how long that will last will depend on how long you've been dependent on caffeine. I highly recommend, because once you get over that hump, your days are like this. And then when it's time for bed, you're ready for bed rather than this. Fuck. Boom, 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 boom. Fuck. Time for bed. Like, anyway. And then it's the whole loop. So that's the best way to describe it. Not that caffeine is bad for you, but when you depend on being a normal functioning human being with a cup of coffee or with it, whatever may have you, then that's where you can run into some issues. Yeah.
Love it.
Do we have anything else you guys want to add? I'm trying to look at the notes here.
I think it's important to do things every day that give you a sense of like accomplishment, like feeling productive. When you feel productive, I think when I feel productive, I feel good. That's what I'm getting at. Like when I'm checking tasks off my list, I feel good. So not try not to like sit around like for a super extended long period of time. Like just try to knock some small tasks out or big tasks. Just like do things during the day, and then like use the evening to like kind of wind down and be like more like relax or like chill kind of time. I think.
Yeah, I think there's a discussion to be had with that, because there's so many times where I'm like doing dishes or putting my laundry and I'm like, there's so many like better things I could be doing right now. And then when I'm done with that task, I feel good. And then I look at myself and I'm like, wait, why would you not want to do a task that makes you feel good? Having an organized room, having an organized dresser, having a clean kitchen sink, what may have you, that feels good. Well, what else is so much better than that? Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, not that I want to be on my phone right now, but it's like, oh, I could be doing other things that are more productive. But at the end of the day, you're probably not going to go do those things. And you also need to make sure you're taking care of your environment and like doing these simple tasks that can sometimes be the hardest thing to do throughout the day. It's like the last thing you want to do is come home and wash dishes.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think that one Jordan Peterson video, he said that your room is the same thing as your mind or something. Like your environment is the same thing as your mind. Like clean environment, like clean surroundings, like that's the direct reflection of what your insides is or something.
100%. This is gonna be a very, very bold statement, but I don't know if I've ever went into someone's car who I went to like a dirty person's car, and we had a great conversation about how calm they are or how fulfilled their life are. You know what I mean? Like usually it's a conversation about things that aren't necessarily going well
Hectic.
for them. Exactly. Exactly. So
Chaotic.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
and a lot like, and I think the most important statement of all is like you can change that. If you need to stop telling yourself you're a person who has a messy room. You know what I mean? Stop telling you, like, you know what I mean? People like just put that as, I've always had a messy room. Like, then change. Guess what? We can change who we are. That's the most powerful thing about a human being, is that the human brain and the human behavior is that you can change that behavior for the better or for the worse. So if you're tired of going into a messy car, stop chalking it up to someone who has a messy, you're just someone who has a messy car. No, you're not. You don't want to be someone who has a messy car. I promise you. You want to live a life with someone who has a clean car. No
Clean
one's
your car,
ever,
damn it.
no one's ever wished they had a friend with a dirty car. I promise you. If you had, if you have 7 friends and you're like, hey, would you rather all 7 of them have a dirty car or a clean car? You would say, I probably want them to have a clean car. Why? Because that's a representation for who they probably are as a person and how their thoughts are. That's aggressive.
Go.
I'm serious
go
though.
off.
Like, I don't know.
Clean your car.
Like, it's just, and it's,
Clean your car. Do your laundry.
If you look
My
at my
mom.
room right now, my mind is a mess. That's all right. I just
but you don't need to, yeah.
No, I'm chilling.
Just pick up a little bit at a time. Just a little bit.
So been grinding here to there.
I love you
Gotta
guys.
close the tabs.
This felt good.
That was a good convo to start
I
back
miss
up.
100%, dude. I miss these feelings at the end of a conversation like this. I haven't had. I mean, no, a conversation with you guys. Let's get one more
We've
in.
been keeping these. We've been keeping these 5 viewers like pretty stagnant. We haven't had any new content, so I think we can just do them service. It's July 24th. We're going to try to bring you guys, for sure, at least one more episode, in the next few weeks. We're going to try to get back on the like an hour a week. We try to discuss. I think we can manage that for you guys.
100%. And yeah, we're going to try to put something together when we're all in person here in a couple weeks to put something together. I still need you guys' help, but that's neither here nor there. The viewers just know we're going to, some content's going to be putting out soon. We have a lot to talk about, and today was a prime example of we had to get some things off our chest, and it felt good.